Hello, everybody. Our presentation is about mass labor migration in the Republic of Moldova, causes and prospects. Let me introduce ourselves. We are two researchers from the Republic of Moldova, Anastasia Romanova, PhD from the Academy of Economic Studies of Moldova, and Svetlana Radika from the State University of Moldova. At the beginning, I'd like to give you the outline of our presentation. Firstly, we're gonna talk about basic forms of migration process. Next, we're gonna focus on push factors of migration. Next, we're gonna move to demographic characteristics of immigrants. Next, we're gonna focus on migration policies in the Republic of Moldova. And finally, we're gonna talk about cooperation with diaspora. Population loss due to migration is the main cause of the decline of the population in modern Moldova. It negatively influences both age structure of the population and the labor force indication. The socio-economic crisis, which hit the country during the collapse of the Soviet Union, was not overcome after gaining independence in 1991, which led to the loss of the country's former attractiveness for migrants and continues to serve as the main push factor for active age Moldovans. Over the year of the independence of the Republic of Moldova, mass immigration has become an integral part of the social and social-economic spheres of the state. At the moment, Moldova is the 11th highest in the world when compared to the size of its population. Migration plays a central role in the development of a country where over 1/4 of its population lives abroad, either permanently or temporarily. Approximately 2/3 of Moldovans migrants originate from rural areas and they're mostly young people. Statistics vary depending on the source and methodology used. We're gonna talk about it later. If we talk about basic forms of migration process, we see here ethnic migration, forced commercial or shuttle trading migration, educational migration, and labor migration. The focus of our presentation today is labor migration. Nevertheless, some words should be told about other forms of. If we talk about educational migration, it should be mentioned since the late 1990s, a growing number of young Moldovan citizens have been leaving the country to continue their education abroad. Many of them do not return to their home country after finishing their studies. Research shows that in many cases, educational migration does not lead to permanent immigration. Often students do not pursue their studies abroad because of their desire to enrich their knowledge with the experience and achievements of the countries. But in numerous cases, educational migration is the exit strategy from the country of origin, where there is a shortage in jobs and every life circumstances and expectations are far behind those in those countries. The universities of Moldova have signed cooperation agreements with foreign universities. In accordance with the contractual terms, students go abroad for a few years are obliged to return home. However, when they experience life abroad and receive grants, they are significantly higher than the salaries in Moldova. They often decided not to return. In other cases, students return to Moldova after the expiry of the contract. A few years later, however, they leave again as soon as the opportunity turns up. The Ministry of Education in the Republic of Moldova assists young people to pursue higher education abroad, first of all, by providing information. The outflow of students and teachers from Moldova on academic exchange programs is expanding at the moment. On the other hand, a reverse from flow of students coming to Moldova for education is very limited. UNESCO data show a high proportion of Moldovan students studying abroad. Among the countries with the largest number of students from Moldova are Romania, Russia, Italy, France, Ukraine, Germany, Bulgaria, and the United States. As it was mentioned above, the most focus of our presentation is labor migration. Labor immigration started to grow in the second half of the 1990s, and especially after the financial crisis of 1998. This wave of mass migration was a response to extreme poverty and is still a response to the opportunities offered by a foreign labor market. The phenomenon of labor migration is a serious problem for the country, involving various social strata and affecting all aspects of life in Moldovan society, including the economy and demography. Push factors of migration. International Organization for Migration experts believe that economic situation, poverty, lack of adequate employment opportunities, and low wages in the country is the main push factor for migrants from Moldova. The deindustrialization of the Moldovan economy as a consequence, a reduction of job opportunities, as well as the erosion of the social infrastructure, education, health care, and housing may also be noted as a push factors. For example, the so-called optimization of the school network carried out by the government has led to the closure of number of schools, especially in rural areas. It should be noted that there is no mass return of Moldovan labor migrants. Survey is conducted in rural areas by different governmental and non-governmental organizations, so that the migrant workers are not going to return, even there is a sharp reduction in their wages in the host countries. They will try to continue sending money to the relatives in Moldova. Okay, to sum up, pull factors for Moldovan citizens abroad are, number one, high living standards, broader opportunities for personal development, availability of social networks created by successful migrants' relative friends, and in addition, low cost and visa-free travel, as well as familiar linguistic, environmental, and common cultural values stimulate migration towards other countries. If we talk about the portrait of a typical labor migrant from Moldova, what can we see here? Various age and sex groups in the country are involved in international labor migration. The most attractive are the young and the middle-aged people, more than 70% age of 40 and almost 40% under the age of 40. Looking at the age distribution in migration flow, the highest tendency is observed in the group of 25-34. Male workers predominate in the total number of migrants from Moldova. Male workers, migrants are employed in the construction, transportation, and agricultural sectors. Migrant women work in the service sector, trade, care after elderly, the sick of children, domestic workers, and in the sex industry. The employment opportunities for migrants largely determine their structure across countries. Thus, the number of men working in Russia engaged primarily in the construction is 3 times as big as the female population. Meanwhile, the proportion of women migrant workers in Italy primarily engaged in the service industry is 70. This percentage is only higher in Israel, where the proportion of female migrant workers is quite high, 86%, and in Turkey, where female migrant workers constitute 81%. According to International Organization for Migration experts, most Moldovan migrants, 64%, are persons with secondary education, while those with primary education or no education constitute less than 1%. Okay, to sum up, let's compose a general portrait of Moldovan labor migrants. They are young people, next, family people, as you see from the slide, more educated people, next table shows you the typical characteristics of their labor migrants from Moldova. So now let's move on to the state policy in the field of migration. As we see from the slide, the current applicability of the problem of mass migration encouraging the authorities of Moldova to explore different measures aimed at minimizing the negative effect of this phenomenon and the use of migration for the benefits of the country. Nevertheless, for a long period of time, the migration policy was not among the priorities of the authorities of the Republic. As you see here, the strategic programs have their priorities. And the priorities are the following. That is, number one, stimulation of return migration. Next, creating the conditions needed in order to ensure the positive aspects of this process. Next, more efficient management of migration at the level of government agencies, including improved monitoring of migration flows. Ensuring the rights of Moldovan migrants abroad and improving their social status. And finally, that is strengthening ties with the Moldovan diaspora. As you see here, I've mentioned the term diaspora. This term is used when we talk about labor migrants residing abroad. The Moldovan National Legal Framework operates this term. The National Strategy Diaspora 2025 defined the term diaspora as citizens of Republic of Moldova temporarily or permanently resident outside the country, person originated from the Republic of Moldova and their descendants, as well as the communities formed by them. Okay, here you can see the list of diaspora-related institutions. That is State Council of Moldova, with its size, Interministerial Committee, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration, and Diaspora-Related Bureau. Here you can see some different national programs which has recently been developed in order to support the Moldovan diaspora abroad. The most important document is National Diaspora Strategy. The Moldovan National Diaspora Strategy developed an action plan to support its implementation. There are many core objectives. They are to draft and develop the strategic and operational framework for the area of diaspora, migration, and development. Next is to ensure diaspora rights and to build trust. Next is to mobilize, harness, and recognize diaspora human capital. Finally is to engage diaspora directly or indirectly in the sustainable economic development of Moldova. What are the main trends of this organization? The National Diaspora Strategy and the Action Plan have contributed to the development of collaboration between the government, local public authorities, civil society in Moldova, and the diaspora. That is undoubtedly the advantage. They strengthen and expand the transversal approach to policies on diaspora, migration, and development. And additionally, reintegration is a high governmental priority. Okay, what are the main achievements of the Republic of Moldova in this area? Moldova's annual diaspora days have been running since 2004. 12 events include activities such as thematic seminars and consultation with the diaspora, business forums, craft exhibitions, cultural and gastronomic events, and so on. Next, we can clearly state that political engagement of Moldovan diaspora has grown over years. And in 2019, for example, the government created and elected individual representative for 14 electoral constituencies for the diaspora for the national parliamentary election. We've got here some effective and innovative practices. That is, number one, diaspora professional return. Next is diaspora innovative project, thematic regional partnership, and diaspora women empowerment, which is quite important. But in spite of all these achievements, there is a number of obstacles in this area. Obstacle number one is digitalization and political representation. And finally, the final slide, you can see the diaspora organization in Europe. You can find them in France, Italy, Germany, and so on. So, finally, I thank you for attention. If any questions, you are welcome.